as well. So Suranga, we're really glad to have you here, and especially for everybody online, thank you for joining. He's going to give a really interesting talk about designing intelligent human-computer interfaces to extend the limits of our perceptual and cognitive capabilities, an area he's been working in for a long time. So I'll turn the time over to you, Suranga, and we look forward to your presentation.
Thank you, Mark. Hi, everyone. So it's really glad to be here. And then, this is great that Mark is doing this kind of short, intensive courses. It's really a great chance to get exposed to some of the latest. For my work, today the overview is I want to give a bit of a motivation why we are doing what we are doing, and then I'll talk through this idea of assistive augmentation, the thematic area we have been working on. Then I want to run through many examples. The reason for this is then you'll get a exposure into various things that we have done, and hopefully more than showing what we have done, it will probably inspire some ideas for you to work on as you engage in projects in this area. And then finally, I'll just touch upon what might be some futuristic opportunities. All right, so the motivation for my work is largely from three things. Firstly, I say that, all of us are disabled one way or the other. It could be a permanent disability, somebody like a blind person trying to access information, could be situational, you are in a room full of smoke, you can't see, so you're kind of blind at that particular situation. Or it may be even contextual, you're in a country that you don't understand the language or the culture, then you feel you need help. So my take on this is every one of us need help at some point. And there are people who are super gifted. This lady, Evelyn Glennie, she plays, she does solo performances, and if you ask her, she doesn't hear. She's profoundly deaf, but she has this amazing ability to overcome her disability. And my motivation is, how can we support a person who's not as gifted as Evelyn to do this kind of things? So this is something that we built. It is a wearable wristwatch kind of interface that vibrates and light up. So when we play, people who are hearing, we play, we hear, we adjust. And for a deaf person, this feedback loop is broken. And we reconnect this feedback loop by converting music into vibration and light. So for them, you play, you feel, you see, and then you adjust. And after a few hours of training, this is a profoundly deaf kid playing this short rhythm. So that's one motivation, allowing people to overcome deficiencies. The second motivation is, I think digital interactions many of the time do not match our natural interaction. Like one of the examples is the part of the world that I come from, we have this cultural thing where you take color powder and put it on your forehead. It's a physical copy paste, right? You take the color powder and you put it, and it's very natural. But back in the days, if we had to move digital media across devices, a photo or something else, then you had to do all kinds of new things that doesn't match with our natural behavior of moving things. So the idea is, how can we provide physicality or tangible interaction to intangible digital media? This is a project I did about 12 years ago. Here you can see a phone number. You take it as if it is tangible, like that color powder, drop it to your phone, and then it gets copied over. Of course, the actual media transfer happens through cloud, but the point is you provide very natural interaction. The third motivation is, I think, at least right now, things like smartphones, they disconnect us from reality, right? We are so fixated. They are designed, unfortunately, to catch our attention. More attention they catch, in some sense, they are successful. But that really disconnects us from the real world. So how can we still have digital devices and interactions, but be connected with the real world? This is a project I did. The motivation is that if you look at your smartphone and if you try to to interact with it without looking at the viewfinder. It's really hard. We have no idea about the various relative locations of the apps. Whereas if you look at your body, if I touch my nose, my forehead, my cheek, I can do it without thinking. That's our ability of proprioception. We have this inbuilt ability. We know where our body parts are. So why don't we leverage on that? We took ear as an example and then asked a bunch of people to touch the ear. Of course, if we have many regions, the accuracy goes down. But for example, 3-button interface could be very accurate, and that can give you a lot of interaction possibility. So we took this as an example and actually built a prototype, and we tested and show that now if I had to cancel a call, change the music, I can do that without changing my attention to a phone. So these kind of things that help us rather empower us to do things that we could not do before, things that are very natural to interact, things that still supports us but keep us in very highly engaged with the real world. We came up with kind of a thematic name for these kind of things, which we call assistive augmentation. So it's an idea where it's a subtle shift. We want to see technology not as a separate tool, but as a integrated extension of our body, mind, and identity. I mean, to put it in another way, rather than thinking of, hey, how can I build a tool and think of the user system compatibility, we want to think of augmenting the user. And instead of user thinking, I did this task with the use of that, we want to create the perception that I did the task myself, where technology happened to be sort of integrated and supported in a seamless way. And there's 2 dimensions to this. One is the ability. So there's multiple abilities that we have: perceptual, cognitive, and physical ability. And there are many ways to augment. So one is you can amplify each of these abilities. For example, if you take glasses, that's pretty much amplifying our perceptual ability of seeing. You can think of substituting. The earlier example of Muspitz, it maps one sensory channel to another, augmenting or substituting the perceptual dimension. You can also think of extending, especially with the new technologies like augmented reality. You can make people aware of things that they were not aware of before. For example, our current sensors could only can do 5 things, but say, for example, by seamlessly overlaying, I may be starting to be seamlessly aware of the UV index, which is kind of extending our sensor. So basically, there's 3 types of augmenting methods: amplifying, substituting, extending, and they can be applied to perceptual, physical, and cognitive dimensions. That's one thing. That is the ability side. The second super important part, if something were to be very integrated to the user, the dimensions of integration. And we think this includes many things. Obviously, one is the integration to your body, right? Things like prosthetics. Could, if you design well, Hugh Hurst bionic limb is a great example of body integration. Or Neil Harbison's this camera that converts color into sound. He's a colorblind guy, to the point that he insisted that this photo has to be his passport photo. So he really truly believed that that's part of his identity. So one is integration into the body. Another one is, how can these augmentation become part of their identity? And the temporal integration, which is, how often you use them. And if it is really part of, things and super frequent use, that's also another dimension of integration. And then how it fits into your socio-cultural interactions. So these are the 2 things we look at when we think of assistive augmentation: the ability and how we augment that, and then how can we make sure that it is integrated by looking at these dimensions. So what I'm going to do is I'll very quickly run through many projects really quickly. Again, the idea is for you to just get yourself sort of inspired, or getting you to think about various things you could do as you go. I put them into few categories. In the assistive category, one of the projects we worked on is a wearable device that was co-designed with blind people for them to seamlessly access information on the go. So it's basically a camera, microphone, and speaker, and the camera can see the context, and the user can ask questions, and then you hear the audio through the speaker. So you can do things like this. You pick up a product and it tells you what it is.
Big beans, am I right?
Yeah, correct.
Fair price, big beans.
And now with the and we actually tested this, the very early version, which is you ask a question, you get the answer. We looked at how people interacted in a grocery scenario. We saw that with the device, people were able to get more informed information about the product, and then we saw that maybe with about a couple of tries they get the information they want. But that was only one interest. You take a picture, you ask a question. But then with the emergence of large language models, we could turn this into more of a conversation, right? Now you can capture something and ask questions, and then get information, and then ask follow-up questions, just like having a sighted companion. And to do this, we also built our own proof of concept hardware, which is basically a headphone. A lot of people ask, why didn't we build a smart glasses? At least for us, many blind people don't wear glasses and don't look like they are blind, and don't carry a white cane. Blindness is a spectrum, and therefore sometimes they actually don't get help when people ask, hey, where's the exit? People are like, can't you see the exit there? So a lot of people wanted something that doesn't get in the way and doesn't even stereotype them being blind. And some people, it's a choice. Some people like glasses, some people like headphones. And in this case, we went with a headphone, which is basically, as I said, open ear speaker, connectivity, a camera for voice-based control, microphone for voice-based control, camera to capture. And then, if we really situate, this is our attempt to see, can we open up a new category of smart headphones? There's a lot of crowded space in smart apps and smart glasses. Can we do smart headphone? But the underlying interaction and software can be applied to other off-the-shelf devices as well. So in fact, the way we architect, it's a bit of a hardware agnostic framework, which we run with our hardware because we have the access, but then it can be extended to other upcoming things like Meta glasses or Google glasses, any of these, as long as we have the right access. So now we can do more of conversational things.
You are holding a box of PanBio self-test for COVID-19. You are holding a box of Ripple tea.
What type of tea is it?
It is black tea with natural rose powder.
So now, other future things we could ask, can we actually leverage some of the capabilities of large language models to maybe do some knowledge bases and work for specific sub-communities like blind students, and digitize their books and give them full access to these materials that they can query voice-based and have access at the same level as a sighted kid. Because right now, even in a developed country like Singapore, for blind kids in school, they are relying on magnifying glasses or refreshable braille, or they just have things printed on this with braille patterns on paper and just use their touch. Or worst come to us, they just ask the teacher. I've sat in these classes and I could see how much less information the blind kids in the class gets compared to sighted kids. Even when the teacher writes on whiteboard, they have no idea what's happening. So can we use things like IC or these upcoming smart wearables to help these kids access information. And not just building tech, but how can we think about do this in a much more theory-informed way? If you look at, especially in the learning context, there's a theory called community of inquiry that talks about to provide a learning experience. There's three things has to happen: the social presence, the teaching presence, and the cognitive presence. And these wearables, not just IC, many of these smart wearables can be uh, uh, developed, interactions can be developed together with these wearables and the power of large language models and the cloud to act like a peer, role player, motivator, to provide the social presence, provide feedback and personalized tutoring, these type of things to really provide that learning experience, building upon these established theoretical frameworks. So these are some of the things we are excited. And the other thing is, things are not always about functional needs. I mean, for us, beyond just the basic functions, we have entertainment, pleasurable experience, and we, for example, when we have do a hike, we enjoy the sceneries, right? And these kind of things should also be accessible to people with disability. What about a blind person? How can we provide a pleasurable experience to them as they, let's say, climb up to a hill and scan the surrounding? So we did some work on converting visual scene into a enjoyable sonification. There's no point saying that there's 5 trees in front of you. That's very descriptive. That doesn't give you the mental picture. We combine bit of abstract sounds and bit of overlay of speech and experimented, and we came up with this framework, tested that, and we found that our framework does provide a lot more pleasurable, enjoyable experience compared to just dumping the image into a image to audio model, or do the image, get a audio text description, and do text to audio. Compared to those our carefully curated sound does provide value. And then thinking a little bit more futuristic, why does even camera needs to be attached to the body? If the camera can move, there could be even more powerful interactions. And one of the ways to think about a moving camera is having a drone. And we have been thinking about drone as a companion. So in this case, when we ran formative studies, some very interesting use case comes through. I think one of the key lessons is, rather than just thinking, hey, this might work, that might work, one of the key things is to really work with the users and co-design and understand. And here, what we did was we did a formative study, which is brought some blind people, talked about the capability of a drone, and then jointly brainstorm what might be some use cases, and very strong use cases came up. For example, I'm out of the subway or the train station. I want to find a particular exit. Right now, either they have to take the guide dog or use their white kid and go around and find the exit, or even IC, they have to walk around. But if they had a drone would fly and scan the space and come back and guide them. Or in the Singapore context, where we have these food places, there's multiple food stalls with a central seating area. If I wanted to know what food is out there, the drone can fly around and read all the labels and come back and say, hey, this shop has Chinese food, this food has Malay food, this is the menu. Then I can say, hey, take me to the Malay food. So there are these kind of use cases for a flying camera. Yeah, so that's one category of work. We've been doing some projects related to well-being. This is a project on augmenting memory. We looked at, instead of just asking people to try this memory-related training, we were interested in looking at, is there a better strategy in asking people to do this memory training, which is more of based on the cognitive and contextual availability. So we looked at physiological signals such as heart rate variability, skin conductance, and use that to estimate the cognitive load and push a training notification when someone is more willing, or rather when someone having more cognitive capacity to do something. So when we actually did the testing, let me show you the testing. So we actually had them send notification when they are at high cognitive load, and obviously the response rate was lower. Some of them did not even notice. Those who noticed, not many actually clicked and did the training. Whereas when these nudges were done, when people were at lower cognitive load, not only they noticed, but also they actually went on to do it. So that's it's actually not just for memory training. It's a useful nudging technique for many other possible interactions. This is a project a few years ago where we looked at how can we make a person aware of their own body, especially something they otherwise can't easily perceive, which is the center of pressure. That's important, especially when you do full body exercises. You need to keep the center of the pressure in your heel. Otherwise, there could be injuries. That's how the trainers do it. And a trainer can tell you, hey, do it and make sure that your center of pressure is near to your heel, but you have no idea. It's very hard to do for a novice user. So we built this insole that monitors or sensors your the pressure profile, and then calculate where the center of pressure is, and then use vibrotactile feedback to create a sensation of that location. So kind of feel where the center of pressure is. Then all you have to do is to adjust your posture to make sure that the location of feeling moves to your heel. So we built this, tested this.
We develop a flexible wearable insole with 8 vibrators.
So maybe I'll just move to the testing part. I think when you do these things, it's also important to test them carefully. Here we tested with our system with and without feedback, and we also collected data, subjective data and objective data from a motion capture system. We tested no feedback, just vibrotactile, and we also had feedback of the center of pressure overlay on a glasses, so you can kind of see where the center of pressure is. And when we look at this, what we want is the center of pressure to be close to your heel, like the green one, which is what the trainer is doing. And when you look at the three conditions, when there's no feedback rate, the center of pressure is all over the place. But we can clearly see with the insole or with the augmented reality overlay, people were able to have a much better awareness of the center of pressure and keep it kind of similar to what the trainer's profile is. And we also observed that when the task is super difficult, like deadlifting 20 kg, it didn't really matter. The task was too hard. The feedback wasn't that useful. So this is another project where instead of really interpreting things, we wanted users themselves to interpret, and we just amplify the signals and brought them into perception level. In this case, we worked with the heart rate. So if you ask yourself, do you know your heart rate right away? Probably not, unless you hold your pulse and do a calculation. Otherwise, it will be very difficult for you to tell your heart rate. It's not a immediately perceivable thing unless you use a device or you do something like manually checking your pulse. We wanted to bring this otherwise hard to perceive thing into more perceivable. What we did was we monitor the heart rate and use that heart rate to do a subtle modulation of a background music. So you are listening to music, and we would modulate that subtly. And we actually ran a study. One group was just listening to this background music. The other group had the same background music, but modulated with the heart rate. And we wanted to see if that actually increased your interoception. Interoception is awareness of your bodily signals. And when you have high interoception, it leads to self-awareness and in the long run well-being. So this is a project we did, and we did study this in the context of workplace. So the idea is, again, when you do projects, there's a lot of things you can do beyond just explicit input from the user. You can leverage what the user's body is doing, and these signals such as the heart rate variability, skin conductance, as I show in the previous memory example and this example. Then we also, combine them into enjoyable, playful experiences. In this case, I collaborate with Floyd from Monash University to do this floating tank. So you are in this floating tank, and the issue is not everyone can enjoy this because of some people have the claustrophobia. Some people are fear of water. We wanted to sort of help people overcome these by adding the extended reality. In this case, you are in the floating tank, but the extended reality bring you into a different virtual world, and also create that bigger space, so you are not claustrophobic as much as or compared to when you had no VR, and then your body signals also drive the visuals, and this provides more enjoyable experience, and we show that it reduces the fear of being in the water.
Heart rate biofeedback guides participants to relax and explore real and virtual water worlds.
So I know personally.
Thirdly, the system rewards participants with a playful experience through an entertaining interactive story.
Without any issue. One of the latest work, I think, an emerging area for you guys to think about is, in addition to the BCI, the brain-computer interfaces, you can actually do other ways to stimulate the brain or your neuro system. The other organ that has the largest concentration of neurons is after the brain is the gut. So we have been experimenting with the gut. Can we augment the gut non-invasively through vibrotactile or electric muscle stimulation to augment the gut experience? So there's a lot of things you can do. So far, we have some initial findings that I can augment the amount of water you drink by playing certain patterns, because you just create that gut feeling of fullness, the gut feelingness of hunger. But there's so many opportunities in this gut-based interaction. We have a last year Kai-led breaking work as a start, but there's a lot more work happening. Another space we are working on is learning. One of the projects that I actually worked with Mark when I was in Auckland is this project Curious, which is how do we allow kids to be aware of their surrounding or physical phenomena in a very easy way, so that they can use that information to drive their curiosity and understand the world. We built a system. Aladdin, who's here, he's the guy responsible for building this very robust system that went into New Zealand schools, and even as we speak, some schools are using them. Basically, we built these hardware sensors, had a Chrome based platform where you can simply connect this, and it's in one version. It's like scientific Instagram. I can just connect the sensor, take a measurement, snap a picture, and put it out there. Hey, I think UV index in Auckland like this. Another person can do this and agree, disagree. So just like how scientists work, they can work collaboratively, creatively, and add provide supporting evidence or provide counterexamples to drive the knowledge forward. We also connected this with Scratch platform for kids to do interactive things like you blow on the humidity sensor, you can have a bird flying around. Yeah, as I said, it's been deployed in many schools in New Zealand. The opportunities, there's a lot more things you could do. In fact, when we did this sensor, as you can see from the top left, every sensor has a unique marker. So we haven't done much, but I think there's opportunity of actually overlaying information and make it more contextual. Let's say if I'm checking the VOC level of a flower, it can appear at that location to make it a little bit more contextual. So there's a lot more things we can do. Especially, I can see this opportunity to engage kids even more, bring some of this AR capability together with the capabilities of the large language models to provide this contextualized and specific knowledge based driven interactive learning experience. So learning kind of on the go type of thing. We could not do them yet, but again, these sensors are available, the platform is available, for you guys to consider. This is another learning related project. We wanted to provide this informal learning, really practicing your cognitive side of things, just like the word for day. We were thinking of puzzle per day, and we came up with algorithm and patented. Given any image, I can divide them into layers and create this rotary puzzle. So here it's a physical version. You rotate the puzzle. So you'll see in a minute, if I rotate the layers properly, at one point, I should be able to solve the puzzle. It's not there yet. Almost. There you go. So you get the, and you can think of, this being a physical puzzle, this being in a kind of a projected space with a large scale, these rotary wheels, which we have done for a school with kids with autism. You can also think of this being a digital puzzle on your phone. In fact, these are some of the installations we did, but now we have actually done a digital puzzle. Just like the Wordle, you can go to play.stackos.com. You get a puzzle per day, where the puzzle image is generated by Gen AI for your preferences. And you get a puzzle a day, you quickly solve this, and once you solve this, you can share with your friends with the time it took for you to solve, and then wait for the next day to get another puzzle. We've done large scale things. This is also something I did with Mark. We collaborated with another architect to build this large scale experience that had projection, shape changing structure. And what we worked on was interactive conversation, where the users can talk to this sort of structure, pavilion, and the pavilion talks back to them. We actually did this before the OpenAI, the ChatGPT came. This was done, the first version of this was done before 2021 November, where we actually built our own small model that focus on given keywords, generate a poem. And that poetic interaction engage people. So you can ask, you can say anything, and whatever you say, the structure respond with a poetic, philosophical kind of response, and then you can go on. And then we took that part out. We actually built a mobile app to support people who are not very confident in speaking, especially in some part of the world. Why people don't speak up is because of the shyness and fear of embarrassment. But if you had a digital character who you can talk, and the last thing we want is things like, say, Siri or Google, you say something, your accent is not recognized. It's like, sorry, I couldn't understand. Can you tell it? Can you say it again? That ruins the confidence. So what we built was, whatever you said, the rest, there will be a response, and then you can say something, and then you can build upon. And we deployed this, we tested, and we actually found out that people actually spend more time with the poetic version, and actually we look at the words they use, and they picked up some words from the poetic version as they go. This was about a 2-month-long study. This is the latest work, again, leveraging the cloud. So how can we provide some self-awareness and even check factual correctness of some of our conversations? This is the very early version, which was a Kai video, but now more elaborated work is done. So here the idea is, as you can hopefully see from the video.
Did you give Grandma her Neurontin?
Neurontin? What is that for?
To lower her blood pressure.
Oh.
Neurontin is a medicine used to help manage epileptic seizures.
Wrong there, and then you can be more aware of this, and then take appropriate action if needed. So in this case,
I don't think Grandma needs that.
Talk to the grandma. There's a few other use cases we showed. Your friends having conversation and.
Telesip can speak Chinese.
What? No, she can't.
You wanna bet?
Speak Chinese?
Sure, what are we betting?
Loser pays for lunch.
Okay.
最近我去了很多地方，比如意大利、还有法国和日本。I've been all over the place recently, like Italy.
See, now you all meet lunch.
Taylor Swift cannot speak Mandarin. However, there is a very realistic.
This is just one type of example, but then you can also think of this is used for your own self-awareness. We could think of various nudging mechanisms to be self-aware of your factual correctness or your logic. There's so many possibilities you could do by monitoring what you say, either in a conversation or just monitoring yourself, and then look at various things. And there, one of the things we did is how do you even separate what is factually checkable and what is just a opinion, and then from there think of what are the ways to make person aware of this, the nudges and things like that. And this is also a few years old project where we try to show how can we actually interact beyond voice, beyond hands with these devices. So one of the new form we came up with was, why don't we use our mouth? So here, this is a smart chewing gum. We looked at what kind of gestures you could do, and then how it impacts your comfort, your look, and ease of use. We found there are some gestures like this particular chewing gum shape, which is asymmetric, so that you are aware of the orientation. You can do things like biting, rolling, and even if you had 2-3 possibilities, you can combine them to create many interactions, such as you can, when you are riding a bike, your hands are busy, eyes are busy. One option is voice. Another option is something like chewing to change music or answer phone call, or maybe you will be able even in a more serious case, a paralyzed person. Right now, the state of the art technology is this mechanical joystick that you use your mouth or face to move around. But with something like Chewit, you can look at the direction you want to go. The accelerometer will, IMU will know that direction, and then you can bite on to accelerate. So you could actually have really empowering input interfaces. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, by thinking of this assistive augmentation way, you can build technology that is empowering, because you need to carefully design this interaction between human and technology. And you can clearly see this. This is a Musbit, the very first example. A girl in Auckland, she used this, and you can see her note. It wasn't about Musbit did this, right? It was about I was able to experience music. I was able to drive once again. That kind of feeling that I was able to accomplish. And of course, there's a lot of other things to think about. How do we do things in a way that the user agency is maintained? How do we think of the ethical and privacy side of things? And how do we build the trust for users to have them really integrated with their body and identity and their their social interactions. We actually set aside some principles for people to think about, right? One of them, the core, is really thinking about the ability and integration, then thinking about the agency, interference, adaptivity, ethical privacy, and then the general the design principles, usability, accessibility, simplicity, all of that. Yeah, I think especially now, I mean, I was just showing some of the cross section of things we have done. But with the emergence of AI and AR and robotics, I think it's crazy to think about the kind of things we could do in future. And then, we probably have the responsibility to shape that future the way we want. One of the things I was actually super impressed at the same time, thinking, what the future could be. This is just a video extract of Dubai King, who passed away before. I think 2 years ago in the World Climate Change Symposium, they recreated him. You should watch this video. This guy recreated such a way that you could see him come into the stage, walk into the stage, and stood in front of the large crowd and gave the speech. So it's going beyond the hologram, the station hologram. He was walking. So I think it's a classic example of combining the Gen AI robotics and AR VR, and you felt like he's actually live, and you really augment the reality that much. So who knows, maybe in future, when someone is in front of you, it may not be the person, it may be so I mean, the reality can be questioned. So yeah, I encourage you to watch this to really see what might be the future. And in my mind, there's three things. One is, hopefully we can drive this future into a future where we can be tuned to what we want, and how do we sort of not be distracted by so many things. Another thing is, how do we actually stay connected, right? We have the opportunity to go beyond these kind of interactions that really takes us away from human to human connection. And the third thing is, maybe now it's so much distraction, maybe there'll be technologies to help us become a little bit invisible and have your own personal space and time. And who knows, maybe there might be new experiences that we never had before. So there may be opportunities there as well. Yeah, so just to quickly summarize, we spoke about the assistive augmentation. The idea is, instead of thinking the user system compatibility, we want to augment the user's ability, but do it in a way that the user himself, herself felt that they did it. And you do this by augmenting ability, but integrating that seamlessly to users' body, mind, identity, and the frequency of usage. We actually wrote a piece about this, which was the cover story of Interactions magazine, the first issue this year. This will have, I mean, it's written in a way that it can be consumed by a wide audience, very light read. If you get a hold of this magazine, I think it's available online, the free PDF. Encourage you to read, which will capture the essence of what I went through. Yeah, so with that, thank you so much. Thanks, Mark, again for having me, and I'm happy to answer questions. We have a few minutes.
Great. Thank you so much, Suranga. That was really great. Let's thank you for his presentation. And that was amazing work you've shown over a lot of different areas. And I think your vision is very compelling as well. So thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions in the room here? Or let me just think. We've grown the online crowd now to almost 30. So let's see if we've got questions online. Anybody in the room? Yep. Yeah.
He mentioned that he has been working in New Zealand and now he's in Singapore.
Yes.
What are the differences in terms of context in the multicultural environment?
Did you hear that, Suranga? So we had a question from Josh here asking, what are the differences in working between New Zealand and Singapore in the context of the multicultural environment?
Many differences. I think New Zealand, to me, it's a great test bed. I think working with different users, our work with teachers, students,
indigenous communities, access is easy. It's more based on personal relationships and integrating with their community, you know, go to schools, talk to teachers, talk to parents. So that gives us a lot of opportunity to get started and really do very effective co-design. Whereas Singapore, I think it needed bit more sort of structured approach, get certain approvals. The difference is New Zealand, it's very much bottom up, and then you need to build that access. Whereas here, if I needed to access all the transport, the travel behavior, as long as I establish a collaboration with the Land Transport Authority, I have all the data. So it needed that establishment and the formality, but once established, you get access to larger pool and a very structured and constant supply. Whereas, so I think that's sort of the style here, a little bit of top-down approach. In New Zealand, I would say it's a bit of bottom-up approach. That's my personal experience.
Great. There's a question online from Rodrigo. Great presentation. Could you please expand a little more on the fact-checking device? How does it fact-check, or in the example of fake video? Or how does it fact-check news, or in the example of fake video?
Yeah. So I mean, what I showed is our very early version last year. But as I said, one of the things is, firstly, in a conversation or even in your self-articulation, first thing is to decide what is fact checkable and what is not. So we started working on a model, say in that Taylor Swift part, right? Some of the things, hey, you know, that kind of stuff we can ignore, but Taylor Swift can speak Chinese. That's something the model detects as this is fact checkable. That's one. Then we built a small framework where, given this statement that is fact checkable, we just send it to a model with the web search tool as well, do check on various knowledge sources, and then see. So I mean, we are kind of at this point at the mercy of what's out there, right? So you could game the system by, if something is actually fake, but there's a huge presence online to support it's being true, then we have no choice. So right now, just detecting fact checkable statements and then sending it into various knowledge-based searches, and from there see if there's multiple evidences to support, then it provides confidence level. From there, we would pick let's say if it is a fake thing, we pick what's the best counterexample and present that. That's the initial idea, but we are still working on the best way to do this.
Great, thanks for that. Does anybody else in the room have any questions? And any questions online? One question I had was, you started talking about this at the end, but not in too much detail. But you said that you've got you feel strongly about AI and AR and robotics being an interesting area of research going forward. Do you want to elaborate a little bit more about that? All three areas are having a rapid development right now, so I can see they're going to converge in very interesting ways. But I'm not sure if you thought about which aspects of AI and AR and robotics would be interesting to explore in the future.
When I started putting that because of a couple of examples, right? One of them is the one I showed you in Dubai, that kind of, you know, bringing people pretty much back into life, you know, giving them almost a reincarnation. That was very powerful. And then in the lab, we have maybe an earlier version in the center where they are working with this guide the robotics dogs, but they reconfigure that as a guide dog, and with that and with something like wearable IC, you could see a blind person having completely new experience compared to having a live actual guide dog versus this robotic guide dog. It's a super powerful thing. I think earlier these things were not possible. Now, because of the maturity of the technology, what we can actually do is we now can empirically test this beyond the lab setting. Having this guide dog, blind people, having them at their house and taking the guide dog for a tour, and we really understand opportunities. I think for me, earlier, these were very experimental. You just do a lab study kind of thing, but now you can build these kind of use cases and study them in the wild to point out maybe what are the things that you can further improve, but at the same time discover new opportunities. So that's why I put combination of these three can help us test and study things in a more powerful way.
Great, thank you. So, and then Ishita has a question online. I wonder if you want to unmute yourself, Ishita, and ask your question.
Yes, sure. Thank you so much for the great presentation, Professor. I really liked your interesting plethora of variety of technology and applications. So I had one question. One of your goal, you mentioned was that you want humans to feel that they're augmented, that they're fully capable of doing something with the ability of using technology for their purpose. But then as we move forward, how do you believe, how do we ethically and meaningfully compare achievements, be it physical, creative, academic, between individuals where the role of augmentation differs? Like some people, based on their accessibility and their access to technology, would have more augmentation available versus some won't. And in cases where, there's no way we could actually find out if they're using an augmentation or not, how do we actually compare?
No, great point. I mean, that's exactly why I highlighted the ethical aspect. In fact, things like who has the access, and then whether that creates unfairness, those who having access to augmentation versus those who does not, and who decides that. And these are important questions. And also another point is dependence, right? If you gave this to me now, I become so dependent, and suddenly if it goes away, will I be worse than what I was before? So I don't think there's a black and white answer, but I think what's important is to have this thing in the same level, rather than building and say, let's figure out this later. I think these discussions of fairness, the dependency, transparency, all of that should be in parallelly explore. And one example is for dependency. Some people started thinking of this augmentation as sort of temporary, taking the analogy from rocket, right? You have the engine, its job is to push you out of the orbit, and then that's done. So similarly, a learning interface. The goal of the learning interface is not to be always with you and become something that you're so dependent, but it is to maybe help you to get that skill. And after that, you kind of, whatever that support is not needed, because you became a better version of yourself. So people think about that kind of approaches as well. It's not you don't need something all the time, but it maybe help you to get to the stage where now you are a better version of yourself, and then you don't depend. But yeah, I think still your points remains valid and important, and as I said, to be discussed and explore as extensively as the technology development.
Yeah,
That's great.
thank you so much.
Does anybody else have any questions in the room here? We need to wrap up in a minute for our next speaker. Or any other questions online? Great. Okay. We'll say thanks, Suranga. I think it was a really amazing talk. And as I said, we'll get the recording, and I'll email you about the slides, and we'll get that out to everybody that wasn't able to be here today. And I think your vision is really compelling. So thank you so much. That was great.